You can't just say the mainstream media are pushing for war because they profit from it without any proof, or it's a conspiracy theory. So let's hope that there is no proof and it is a conspiracy theory. Proof! Hello there, you 5.3 million awakening wonders. We're together on a journey right now. We cannot be stopped. Keep evolving, keep awakening. Don't let them shut you down or close you down or prevent this communication from happening. Whoever you are, whatever flaws you may have, I know there's a journey back for all of us together that we can do something constructive if we stay awake, if we stay focused, if we stay strong. Today we're going to be talking about the war in Ukraine, in particular how it is presented to us through mainstream media, and if there's any truth in the claims that the mainstream media have a preferable outcome. Now, when I talk about people collaborating in order to achieve a certain agenda, I don't mean any kind of stuff. I mean more like there are sets of interests that work very well in alignment, and that's all systems really are. And if there's any evidence, if we can show relationships, individuals, collusion between individuals and preferable outcomes, then that would be a theory rather than just an outrageous claim. So let's get to work on that in a moment. But first, I want to tell you that where you will get unexpurgated, unfiltered, truthful information as best as I can manage is by coming to see me live. I'm all across the UK, Carlisle, Plymouth, Glasgow, Bristol. Come see me. This is a fantastic experience. Me, Anakin Skywalker, before he turns into evil Darth Vader, talking openly as I can. There's a link in the description if you fancy coming along. Let's have a look at the news, shall we? A study of our nation's most influential media outlets reveals that it's the press that is driving the charge towards war with Russia over Ukraine. Now, obviously, the war between Russia and Ukraine is complicated. It seems, based on what I have seen, that we're talking about a person that's well up for war. It seems to me, from what I have seen, that Russia's actions are horrifying. We are not condoning, we are simply explaining how the news is relayed to you and whether or not that news might have an agenda other than, hello, we're the news. We're here just to tell you some stuff and there's no biases at play here. You can trust us. Those guys are bad. We're good. It's as simple as that. We're just questioning that because abstract actions elsewhere are even more difficult to have an opinion on and to intercede with. But because of data analysis these days, which is mostly used to sell us stuff, you can diagnose reality in ways that just wasn't possible a little while ago. Have a listen to this. 90% of recent opinion articles in the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the Wall Street Journal have taken a hawkish view on conflict, written by pundits tied to the national security state. So there you are. That's some information. Oh no, you're just making it up. The coverage is balanced. Well, no. 90% of it is hawkish or bellicose, more inclined towards war, and in many cases written by pundits tied to the national security state. So there is an attitude of belligerence or sort of warmongering, call it what you will, and there are financial ties between the people writing that content and the military-industrial complex. And of course, this is happening at a time when we're increasingly told that anything outside of the mainstream media is misinformation or disinformation, where Russia today, with whom I have no alliance, are sort of kicked off the airwaves. Why? Because presumably it's biased. Well, that's a bias. So some biases are okay. Some misinformation is okay. Some disinformation and propaganda is okay. So we're not taking a moral stance, we're taking an agenda-oriented stance. So don't pretend that it's about morality. Just admit straight up, listen, we need to be able to control your consciousness. We need to be able to control your behaviour. We're only going to give you information that is favourable to the outcomes we desire. That's what power does. Opinion columns have overwhelmingly expressed support for sending US weapons and troops to the region. Russia has universally been presented as the aggressor in this dispute, with media glossing over NATO's role in amping tensions while barely mentioning the US collaboration with neo-Nazi elements within the Ukraine ruling coalition. We did videos on these things, not because we are supportive of Russia, we are not, but because we are interested in understanding information in a multivalent way, looking at the numerous sides to best understand reality, if there is such a thing. Mint Press conducted a study of three of the most prominent and influential American outlets, the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the Wall Street Journal. Together, these three outlets often set the agenda for the rest of the media and could be said to be a reasonable representation of the corporate media spectrum as a whole. Using the search term Ukraine in the Factiva Global News database, all opinion pieces on the conflict published in a 3-week period were read and studied. This gave a sample of 91 articles, in total 15 in the Times, 49 29 in the Post and 27 in the Journal. Overall, the tone from the three newspapers studied was exceedingly hawkish, with around 90% of the columns expressing a get tough message. There was little to no variation among the outlets in their tone. You've seen those clips, right, where newscasters are talking about the pandemic or war or whatever, and you just see them saying the same stuff, parroting the same stuff. It does come from various centralised agencies. There is a distillation of data prior to it reaching media outlets. There is all sorts of cross-collaboration. I don't imagine that they sit around going, why don't we this week all publish an article criticising Russell Brand for being a conspiracy theorist? But by coincidence, in one day, they do tend to publish several articles from that perspective. So when you're dealing with something serious and important and impactful, like who we should go to war with and how we should regard an international conflict, do you think it's possible that the many intersecting interests might align in order to get their agenda met? The little pushback to the incessant drumbeats for war were few and far between. And of course what it does, as we've discussed before, is the more that you hear bellicose, belligerent, pugilistic language, the more you feel like, well, this is what's normal. Remember that our entire way of life is a kind of selected choice. Like, you know, the going to work, the food that we eat. We've been bamboozled and baffled and corralled into particular lifestyle choices. So when it comes again to something significant like war, there are particular perspectives that are continually presented, and pointing that out does not make you a conspiracy theorist, it just makes you someone who's not a bloody idiot. There was essentially complete unanimity in presenting Russia and not NATO as the aggressor, with 87 of the 91 articles presenting the issue as such. There was overwhelming support for sending in both huge quantities of what the Biden administration has termed lethal aid. Oh my God, the language, lethal aid. Perhaps Orwell's greatest legacy is that he told us that language would become weaponized and used to obscure and create veils of opacity around truth, like that language itself will become a kind of intoxicant. Then you hear a phrase like lethal aid. We gotta give them aid. What is lethal aid? Is it missiles and guns in a war zone? Yeah, but it's aid. Lethal aid sounds like a can of soda that you might give a man on death row. And also deploying American troops in the region, a move that would rapidly escalate the threat of terminal nuclear war. I heard yesterday that when people hear the phrase no-fly zone, they go, yeah, no-fly zone, that's a good thing. But if people say, do you want Russian jets shot out of the sky in order to establish a no-fly zone? People go, bloody hell, that sounds a bit aggressive. Yeah, that's what a no-fly zone means. That means we shoot down Russian jets. You know that image of a mushroom cloud that haunted you throughout your adolescence? Yeah, I remember that guy. Did you like it? No. Do you want it? No-fly zone? Well, that sounds fun. The Post went much further, however, with one column demanding that the US send around 85,000 soldiers to the region immediately, a figure that is said must be matched by other NATO members as well. What are your qualifications for these terrifying military announcements? I went to journalism school on a Bill Gates scholarship. However, the Journal went furthest of all, calling for the US to be turned into a global military state in order to fight two world wars at once. Page 1. Turn the US into a global militarist state immediately to fight two world wars at once. And then over here on page 2, Walmart got some good deals on, and then it's mostly sports and weather. Meanwhile, in the United States, despite the media saber-rattling, there is limited public appetite for any conflict with Russia. A Rasmussen poll found that only 31% of Americans think US troops should be sent to Ukraine. That statistic shows plainly that the mainstream media don't listen to you. 31% of people, yeah, all right, so that means 69% don't want a war. And what's the mainstream media's response? Yeah, come on, let's have a war. Like every other institution, whether it's apparent democracy or whatever, they don't listen to you. And all you're thinking right now is that I said 69%, aren't you? Don't be so childish. That's how come they're winning. Raytheon CEO Greg Hayes said in January, Raytheon's a weapons manufacturer. They send a lot of lethal aid into wedding parties all over the world. I fully expect we're going to see some benefit from the Ukraine crisis. You bet your ass. Raytheon and Northrop Grumman stocks are currently approaching all-time highs. Weapon industry funded media like Politico. Politico is funded by the weapon industry. What kind of reporting are you going to get from them? We believe firmly there should be a war. Why is that? Because if there isn't one, we're going to have to lose Janice from accounts. And I like her. Weapon industry funded media like Politico publish content wondering whether the US should rattle Putin's cage. You know what we should do? We should rattle his cage. Over the last week or so, and I don't want to bother you with it, I've been being called a conspiracy theorist and stuff. You've got Politico being funded by the weapons industry. I mean, doesn't that sound like a conspiring, a sort of a desired mutual outcome from two powerful entities, Politico and the weapons industry? Does pointing that out make me a conspirator? I've got a theory. What's the theory? Well, it's crazy. The weapons industry. The weapons industry. They're giving Politico money, right? Yeah, they are doing that. We've got facts. We can see that. We've got the bank accounts. Yep, that's all true. Right, but what if, Politico, when they're writing about the war, like they say stuff that would be good for the weapons industry? You sick son of a bitch. Sorry, it's my new meds. I got him off Pfizer. Hey! Should rattle Putin's cage, and journalists at White House press conferences continue to goad the administration into more aggressive posturing. Go on. Oh, I'm a very old man. Go on, posture. I learned this one from looking at my son's laptop. Cable news viewership has jumped during Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Oh, what a coincidence. CNN, Fox and MSNBC collectively averaged 6.4 million viewers in prime time. That's up from their January average of 4 million. CNN's audience soared from 633,000 in January to 1.75 million last week, up 178%. And MSNBC had 980,000 for its war coverage, up 51% over January. But to make a connection between those rising viewer figures and increased advertising revenue, that would come from the kind of organisations that also might be broadly supportive of war, and pundits that are supportive of war, and the cold, hard facts that 90% of coverage in those three publications that is broadly representative of the mainstream media was explicitly pro-war. To make any connection between those facts would make you a conspiracy theorist. But that's just what I think. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below what you think being a conspiracy theorist means now. Does it mean just putting together facts? Does it mean just having an opinion? Is it the new anti-vaxxer, just a new word to sling at people to shut them down and prevent conversation and call it misinformation and prevent us communicating openly using our rights, our tools to create our own kind of consensus, a different narrative, an adjacent society, a different culture, not dominated by these coalescent centralized forces that don't want you free and certainly don't want me free either? Who knows? Tell me in the comments what you think. Give us a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber yet, become a subscriber now. We need you more than we've ever needed you, and we've always needed you a hell of a lot because we love you. If you've enjoyed this video, look at this one or this one, sign up to my mailing list, just one click away. I'll tell you what I'm doing live because, for example, I'm all over the UK. Glasgow, Plymouth, Carlisle, Stockton-on-Tees, beautiful places all over the UK. Bristol, Blackpool. Link in the description if you want to come see me. Most important of all, though, stay free.